Breaking: Manchester United in complete meltdown. You won't believe what's unfolding at Old Trafford right now. While we've been celebrating our Champions League football and watching Arsenal climb back to where we belong, our old rivals Manchester United have hit rock bottom, and I mean rock bottom. Here's what's got the football world shook. 15th place finish. Yes, you heard that right. Manchester United finished 15th in the Premier League, their worst ever Premier League season. Europa League final heartbreak, they lost 1-0 back, Arsenal family. What's up, Gunners? Welcome back to Arsenal Daily Talk, your #1 destination for the hottest welcomed ball stories that matter to us Arsenal fans. Today, we're diving deep into something absolutely massive that's happening right under our noses, and trust me, as Arsenal supporters, we need to be paying close attention to this bombshell story. Oh, Tottenham, yes, that Tottenham. Just last week, missing out on European football entirely. Gary Neville's shocking defense. The United legend is actually defending the players while admitting it's too much for everyone at the club right now. Harry Maguire's brutal warning: from zero to hero, Maguire has delivered the most savage wake-up call to his teammates. There will be a lot of players who will leave. Things have to change. The transfer earthquake that's coming. And here's where it gets insane for us Arsenal fans. Fabrizio Romano and other top sources are reporting that United could be looking at the biggest clear-out in football history. We're talking about $335 million worth of potential player sales. 10-plus players potentially leaving Old Trafford. Even Bruno Fernandes could be sold for £100 million. Why should Arsenal fans care? Because this chaos at United, combined with their no European football situation, means white heavy checkmark less competition for top targets. White heavy checkmark potential bargain opportunities. White heavy checkmark our rivals getting weaker while we get stronger. What this means for Arsenal. While United are in complete crisis mode, we're sitting pretty with Champions League football, a stable squad, and Mikel Arteta building something special. The contrast couldn't be more stark. So buckle up, Arsenal family, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about United's meltdown, what Fabrizio Romano is saying about their transfer chaos, and most importantly, how this absolute disaster at Old Trafford could actually benefit YESS. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell because you do not want to miss any of our daily Arsenal content. Let's get into it. Is this the summer that changes everything for Manchester United? After watching Manchester United stumble through their worst season in Premier League history, fans are asking one big question: can the summer transfer window save their beloved club? With a 15th place finish and a heartbreaking Europa League final loss still fresh in everyone's minds, the pressure is on to get things right this time. The numbers tell a story that no United fan wants to remember. Finishing 15th in the Premier League table is not just disappointing, it's shocking for a club that once dominated English football. When you add the pain of losing the Europa League final to Tottenham just last week, you start to understand why this summer might be the most important transfer window in recent United history. But here's the thing about football: there's always hope. And right now, that hope is tied to what happens in the next few months as United try to rebuild their squad. How bad was this season really? Let's be honest about what happened this season, because sugarcoating it won't help anyone. Manchester United finished 15th in the Premier League with 42 points. To put that in perspective, this is a club that has won the Premier League 13 times. A club that Sir Alex Ferguson turned into the most successful team in English football history. The season wasn't completely without bright spots though. The final day victory against Aston Villa gave fans something to cheer about. A 2-0 win that marked their first home league victory since February. Yes, you read that right, February. That tells you everything you need to know about how tough this campaign was. Then came the Europa League final against Tottenham. For 90 minutes, United fans thought they might salvage something from this nightmare season. But football can be cruel, and Tottenham's 1-0 victory meant United ended the season empty-handed. Manager Ruben Amorim now faces the biggest challenge of his career. How do you rebuild confidence in a squad that has been knocked down so many times? How do you convince top players to join a team that finished 15th? These are the questions keeping United officials up at night. The transfer window that could change everything. Here's where things get interesting. According to reports, Manchester United are not holding back this summer. The club is apparently willing to listen to offers for any player in their squad. Any player. That's quite a statement and shows just how serious they are about making changes. The name that keeps coming up in transfer discussions is Victor Osimhen. The Nigerian striker has been one of the most talked about players in European football, and United are reportedly in talks with Napoli about bringing him to Old Trafford. What makes this potential deal fascinating is the structure being discussed. Instead of paying Napoli's full asking price, United might offer Rasmus Højlund plus around £33.5 million to get Osimhen. It's basically a swap deal with cash added on top. Why would United want to get rid of Højlund so quickly? The young Danish striker came to Old Trafford with high hopes, but this season showed he might not be ready for the pressure that comes with playing for Manchester United. Sometimes a change of scenery is good for everyone involved. If United can pull off this Osimhen deal, they would be getting a proven goalscorer who knows how to perform in big games. The Nigerian striker has shown he can score goals in Serie A and the Champions League. That's exactly what United need right now. Moise Cunha, the first piece of the puzzle? Another name being linked with United is Matheus Cunha. Reports suggest he could become United's first summer signing, which would make sense given their need for attacking options. Cunha brings pace, skill, and versatility to any team he joins. He can play multiple positions across the front line, which fits perfectly with modern football tactics. For a team that struggled to score goals consistently this season, adding someone like Cunha could make a real difference. But here's the question United fans are asking. Is one or two new signings enough to fix what went wrong this season? When you finish 15th, the problems usually run deeper than just needing better players. The Alejandro Garnacho situation. One story that shows the human side of football involves Alejandro Garnacho and his teammate Ahmad. There have been reports that manager Ruben Amorim told Garnacho he should look for a new club. That's never easy news for any player to hear. But Ahmad, showing the kind of loyalty that football fans love to see, spoke up for his teammate. During a press conference, he made it clear that he hopes Garnacho stays at United next season. Alejandro is a really good player and we need good players in the team, Ahmad said. This kind of support from teammates matters more than people realize. Football is not just about tactics and transfers, it's about relationships and trust between players. However, some experts think it might actually be better for Garnacho to leave. Not because he's not good enough, but because sometimes players need a fresh start to reach their potential. If Garnacho does move abroad, it could help both him and United in the long run. From United's perspective, selling Garnacho could provide important funds for new signings. The financial rules in football mean that selling academy players can give clubs more freedom to buy new talent. What needs to change at Old Trafford? The question every United fan is asking is simple: what went so wrong this season? You don't go from being Manchester United to finishing 15th without some serious problems. One issue has been consistency. Too many times this season, United would play well in one game and then look completely different in the next. That's not acceptable at any level of football, let alone the Premier League. Another problem has been confidence. When results keep going against you, it becomes harder and harder to believe things will get better. Players start second-guessing themselves, and that shows on the pitch. The good news is that these problems can be fixed with the right approach. New players can bring fresh energy and ideas. A proper preseason can help build fitness and team spirit. And sometimes, just knowing that changes are coming can lift everyone's mood. The pressure on Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim took over as Manchester United manager with high hopes and big expectations. But managing United is different from any other job in football. The pressure is constant, the spotlight is bright, and the fans demand nothing less than excellence. This summer is crucial for Amorim's future at the club. He needs to show that he can identify the right players and build a team that can compete at the highest level. The transfer window is his chance to put his stamp on the squad and show everyone what his vision looks like. The challenge is enormous. How do you convince top players to join a team that just finished 15th? How do you rebuild confidence while also meeting sky-high expectations? These are the questions that will define Amorim's time at United. Can United bounce back? History shows us that big clubs can recover from terrible seasons. Liverpool had their struggles before Jurgen Klopp arrived. Manchester City were not always the dominant force they are today. Even Arsenal went through difficult periods before finding their way back. The difference is that those clubs made smart decisions during their rebuilding phases. They identified their problems, found the right solutions, and stuck to their plans even when things got tough. United have the resources to make big changes this summer. They have passionate fans who will support the team through difficult times. And they have a history of success that should attract quality players. But resources and history are not enough. United need to make the right decisions this summer. Every signing needs to be carefully thought out. Every player who leaves needs to be replaced with someone better. The financial reality. One thing that makes this summer even more challenging is the financial pressure United are under. Modern football has strict rules about how much clubs can spend, and United need to be careful not to break those rules. This is why the potential Osimhen deal makes sense from a financial perspective. Instead of paying a huge transfer fee, United would be trading one player for another while adding some cash. This kind of deal helps clubs manage their finances while still improving their squads. The same logic applies to potentially selling players like Garnacho. Academy players represent pure profit in financial terms, which gives clubs more freedom to spend on new signings. United will need to be smart about their spending this summer. Every pound needs to be used wisely because there might not be many chances to get things right. What do the fans deserve? Manchester United fans have been incredibly patient during this difficult period. They've watched their team struggle while their biggest rivals have found success. They've seen other clubs win trophies that United used to collect regularly. These fans deserve better than a 15th place finish. They deserve to see their club competing for the biggest prizes in football. They deserve to feel excited about going to Old Trafford instead of worried about what might go wrong. The summer transfer window is United's chance to show their fans that better days are coming. Every signing needs to send a message that the club is serious about getting back to where it belongs. Looking ahead. As we look toward the new season, there's reason for both hope and concern. The hope comes from knowing that United are willing to make big changes and invest in new players. The concern comes from knowing how much work needs to be done. The potential arrival of players like Victor Osimhen and Matheus Cunha would definitely improve United's attacking options. But football is a team sport, and United need improvements in every area of the pitch. Defense needs to be more solid. Midfield needs to control games better. Attack needs to score more goals. And everyone needs to show the fighting spirit that has been missing for too much of this season. The bottom line. This summer transfer window feels different from others in recent years. There's an urgency and honesty about United's situation that hasn't always been there. The club seems to understand that small changes are not enough. They need to think bigger and bolder. Whether that means swapping Højlund for Osimhen, bringing in Cunha, or making other moves we haven't heard about yet, United need to act decisively. Half measures and compromise signings won't fix what went wrong this season. The next few months will tell us a lot about Manchester United's future. Will they make the bold decisions needed to get back to the top? Will they find the right balance between buying new players and keeping the good ones they already have? One thing is certain, United fans will be watching every move closely. After enduring their worst Premier League season ever, they deserve to see their club fight back with everything they have. The stage is set for what could be the most important summer in Manchester United's recent history. The question is no longer whether United need to change, it's whether they have the courage to make the changes that are needed. For the sake of everyone who loves this historic club, let's hope they do. Do Manchester United players really care? Gary Neville has the answer. Picture this. You're sitting in a pub watching your team lose the biggest game of the season. The hopes of European football next year are slipping away. Your team finishes 15th in the league. Everything feels like it's falling apart. This was exactly how Gary Neville felt watching Manchester United lose 1-0 to Tottenham in the Europa League final. But instead of just getting angry at the players, the Sky Sports pundit had something different to say. Something that might surprise you. The night everything came crashing down, Manchester United travelled to Bilbao in Spain with one last chance. After a terrible Premier League season that saw them finish in 15th place, winning the Europa League was their only way back into European competition. The pressure was massive. Tottenham had other plans. Brennan Johnson scored the only goal of the game, and Spurs lifted their first trophy in 17 years. For United, it meant no European football next season. No Champions League. No Europa League. Nothing. The financial impact will be huge. European football brings in millions of pounds every year. Without it, United will have even less money to spend on new players. The problems keep getting bigger. But here's what's interesting. While many fans were pointing fingers at the players, Gary Neville saw something different. What Neville really thinks about the players. "I was in a pub watching it. I didn't react at the end of the game," Neville said after the final. It sort of, to be fair, was something that felt quite expected. Expected? That's a strong word from a United legend. But Neville wasn't just being negative for the sake of it. He had a deeper point to make. The former United captain believes this loss was the result of years of bad decisions. The club has made a lot of poor decisions over the last 10 years, and I think Wednesday night, it all came home to roost on and off the pitch. This is where it gets really interesting. Instead of blaming the players for not caring, Neville defended them. The big question: do United players actually care? This is the question every United fan has been asking. When you see players not tracking back, not fighting for every ball, not showing the passion we expect, it's easy to think they don't care. Neville disagrees completely. "I don't believe that football players wake up in the morning and don't care. I believe they genuinely do care, and I believe those Manchester United players do care." Think about it. These are professional athletes who have worked their whole lives to reach this level. They grew up dreaming of playing for clubs like Manchester United. Why would they suddenly stop caring? But if they do care, why are the performances so poor? Neville has an answer for that too. The real problem: it's too much for everyone. According to Neville, the issue isn't that players don't care. The problem is much bigger than that. The reality of it is, it's too much for them, and it's too much for everybody at the club at this moment in time. What does he mean by too much? Let's break it down. The pressure at Manchester United is unlike anywhere else. Every game is analyzed. Every mistake is magnified. The media attention is constant. The fan expectations are sky-high. The history of the club weighs heavily on everyone. When you're not winning, all of this becomes even harder to handle. Players start doubting themselves. They become afraid to make mistakes. They stop playing with freedom and confidence. Add to this the financial pressures the club is facing. The need to qualify for Europe. The pressure to buy new players. The uncertainty about the future. It creates an environment where everyone is stressed and struggling. The Amorim Challenge. Ruben Amorim arrived at Old Trafford in 2024 with high hopes. The Portuguese manager had done great things at Sporting Lisbon. United fans were excited about his attacking style of play and his ability to develop young players. But Neville knows it won't be easy for the new manager. There's obviously a manager who's relatively new he's going to need to do quite a lot, Neville explained. What exactly does Amorim need to do? Neville thinks it's about changing and adapting that squad to get what he wants. This sounds simple, but it's actually incredibly difficult. Amorim has inherited a group of players who were struggling before he arrived. Now they're struggling even more. These players have lost confidence. They've been criticized constantly. Some probably want to leave. How do you turn that around? How do you rebuild confidence? How do you create a winning mentality when losing has become normal? The pattern of struggle. One thing Neville pointed out is really important, and he's collected a group of players who have had a difficult time before he came, even more difficult time since he arrived. This shows the scale of the problem. It's not just about Amorim's tactics or methods. The players were already struggling when he got there. The problems run much deeper than just the manager. Think about some of the current United players. How many managers have they played under in the last few years? How many different systems have they had to learn? How many times have they been told they're not good enough? When players go through this kind of instability, It affects their confidence and performance. They start second-guessing themselves. They become afraid to take risks. They play safe instead of playing with the freedom that made them good players in the first place. What this means for next season. So where does this leave Manchester United going into next season? The challenges are obvious. No European football means less money and less attraction for top players. Why would a world-class player choose United over Manchester City, Arsenal, or Liverpool, who are all in the Champions League? The squad needs major changes, but making those changes will be difficult without European football revenue. It's a vicious circle. The pressure on Amorim will be enormous. United fans are patient, but there are limits. If results don't improve quickly, questions will be asked. But maybe Neville's perspective offers some hope. If the problem isn't that players don't care, then there's something to work with. Care and commitment can't be taught, but confidence can be rebuilt. The bigger picture. Neville's comments reveal something important about modern football. It's easy to blame players when things go wrong. They're paid millions of pounds, so they should perform, right? But football is more complicated than that. Players are human beings. They have emotions, fears, and doubts just like everyone else. When the environment around them is negative and stressful, it affects their performance. This doesn't mean we should lower our standards or accept poor performances. But it does mean we need to understand what's really causing those poor performances. Is it lack of effort? Probably not. Is it lack of ability? Maybe sometimes. But more often it's about confidence, system, environment, and mental state. What United fans should take from this? If you're a United fan reading this, you might be thinking, so what? I don't care why they're struggling. I just want them to play better. That's fair. As fans, we invest our time, money, and emotions in supporting the team. We deserve better than 15th place in the league and losing finals. But Neville's perspective might help us be more realistic about how long it will take to fix things. If the problems are as deep as he suggests, then quick fixes probably won't work. The club needs time to rebuild. Amorim needs time to implement his methods. Players need time to regain confidence. The whole culture at the club needs to change. This doesn't mean we should accept mediocrity. But it might mean being more patient with the process of improvement. Looking ahead, Manchester United's post-season tour continues with games in Asia. These friendlies might seem unimportant, but they're actually crucial for Amorim to work with his players away from the pressure of competitive games. The transfer window will be vital. United need to bring in players who fit Amorim's system and have the right mentality. But they also need to move on players who don't want to be there or can't handle the pressure. Most importantly, the club needs to create an environment where players can perform without fear. Where mistakes are learning opportunities, not reasons for public criticism. The final word. Gary Neville's defense of Manchester United's players might seem surprising. After all, he's never been shy about criticizing poor performances in the past. But his comments show a deeper understanding of what's really happening at Old Trafford. The problems aren't just about individual players or even individual managers. They're about the whole structure and culture of the club. The Europa League final loss was painful, but it was also predictable given everything that's happened over the last decade. The real question now is whether the club can learn from this and make the changes needed to move forward. Neville believes the players do care. That's actually good news. You can work with players who care but are struggling. It's much harder to work with players who have given up completely. The road back to the top will be long and difficult. There will be more setbacks along the way. But if Neville is right about the players still caring, then there's hope. Manchester United fans have waited over a decade for the club to return to its former glory. They might have to wait a bit longer. But with the right approach, the right support, and yes, the right amount of patience, the good times can return. The question is, are we all ready to support the team through what might be a difficult rebuilding process? Or will we demand instant results that might not be realistic given where the club currently stands? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, the players, the manager, and the fans all want the same thing. Success for Manchester United. And sometimes, that shared desire is the first step toward making it happen. The clock is ticking. The summer of change starts now. Harry Maguire's stark warning, the summer that could change Manchester United forever. What happens when one of football's most criticized defenders becomes the voice of reason at Manchester United? Harry Maguire has just delivered a message that should make every United player look in the mirror this summer. From zero to hero, Maguire's remarkable turnaround. Remember when Harry Maguire was the scapegoat for everything wrong at Manchester United? Those days feel like ancient history now. Since Ruben Amorim walked through the doors at Old Trafford in November, Maguire has gone from backup player to one of only 4 players the manager considers completely essential. This transformation didn't happen by accident. When Amorim arrived with his 3-4-2-1 system, many expected it to spell the end for Maguire. Instead, the English defender embraced the change, adapted his game, and became one of United's standout performers in what has been a truly terrible season. The manager was so impressed that he extended Maguire's contract by a full year early in his reign. That decision now looks like genius. While other players struggled to understand what Amorim wanted, Maguire stepped up both on the pitch and in the dressing room. The warning that shocked everyone. Speaking from India during a press event with Andre Onana and Diogo Dalot, Maguire didn't hold back when discussing United's disastrous campaign. His words were simple but powerful. "Players have to take responsibility," he said bluntly. "We slipped in the Premier League. We were more focused on the Europa League, but that's no excuse." But it was his next statement that really grabbed attention. "It's Manchester United. We can't accept where we are. There will be a lot of players who will leave. Things have to change." These aren't the words of a player trying to keep everyone happy. This is a leader who has had enough of watching his teammates let down the club and its fans. Why Maguire's words carry so much weight? You might wonder why anyone should listen to Harry Maguire about leadership and standards. The answer is simple: he's earned the right to speak. First, he's one of only 4 players Amorim considers irreplaceable. That puts him in pretty exclusive company at a club where almost everyone else is apparently available for transfer. Second, he's been one of United's best players this season. While others have crumbled under pressure, Maguire has consistently delivered solid performances in a defense that has often looked shaky. Third, Amorim himself has admitted that United's squad is starved of leaders. The manager clearly sees something in Maguire that makes him worth building around. When someone goes from being written off to becoming indispensable in just 6 months, people tend to listen when they speak. Maguire has walked the walk, so now he can talk the talk. The numbers behind United's nightmare season. To understand why Maguire felt compelled to speak out, you need to look at just how bad things have been at Old Trafford this season. United finished 15th in the Premier League with just 42 points. Let that sink in for a moment. This is Manchester United we're talking about, a club that has won 13 Premier League titles, finishing closer to relegation than to European qualification. It represents their worst ever finish in Premier League history. Even in their darkest days post-Sir Alex Ferguson, they never sank this low. The scale of the failure is almost impossible to comprehend for a club of United's size and resources. The Europa League campaign offered little comfort either. While they focused more energy there according to Maguire, they still couldn't deliver the success that fans expected. These numbers explain why Maguire felt the need to be so direct. When you're part of the worst United team in Premier League history, someone needs to stand up and say enough is enough. The summer clear-out that could change everything. Maguire's warning about players leaving wasn't just empty talk. All signs point to one of the biggest summer clear-outs in football history. The free transfers alone will be significant. Christian Eriksen, Johnny Evans, and Victor Lindelof are all expected to leave when their contracts expire. But that's just the beginning. The real shakeup will come from the big money departures. Reports suggest that Alejandro Garnacho could leave for around £50 million, despite being one of the few bright spots in recent seasons. If United are willing to sell a promising young player like Garnacho, it shows how serious they are about change. Other players who could be sold include some big names. Antony might go for £40 million, the same price tag attached to Marcus Rashford. Jadon Sancho could leave for £25 million, while Rasmus Højlund might be sold for £30 million. Even more established players aren't safe. Casemiro could go for 15 million, while backup goalkeeper Altay Bayındır might leave for 10 million. Andre Onana, despite his recent improvement, could be sold for 25 million. The most shocking potential departure would be Bruno Fernandes for 100 million pounds. The Portuguese midfielder has been United's best player for years, but even he might not be safe if the right offer comes in. If all these moves happen, United could raise 335 million pounds. That's an enormous amount of money that could completely transform the squad. What this means for the players still there. For the players who survive the summer clear-out, Maguire's message is clear. This is your chance to prove you belong at Manchester United. The new season will be a fresh start under Amorim's system. The manager has said he's glad they struggled this year because it means they can avoid teething problems next season. But that only works if the remaining players show they've learned from this disaster. Maguire has set the standard. He's shown that it's possible to turn things around, adapt to new demands, and become essential to the team's plans. Other players need to follow his example or risk being part of next summer's clear-out. The pressure is now on everyone from academy graduates to experienced internationals. If you're still at United next season, you'll know that you survived one of the biggest clear-outs in club history. That comes with responsibility. Amorim's vision taking shape. Ruben Amorim arrived at United with a clear vision of how he wanted to play. The 3-4-2-1 system was always going to take time to implement, especially with a squad that wasn't built for it. The manager has been honest about the challenges. He knew there would be struggles and has even said he's pleased they happen now rather than later. This suggests he always planned for a major rebuild in his first summer. Maguire's emergence as a leader fits perfectly with Amorim's plans. The manager needs players who can handle pressure, adapt to new systems, and set standards for others. Maguire has shown he can do all three. The fact that only 4 players are considered irreplaceable shows how radical Amorim's vision is. Most managers would try to work with what they have, but Amorim seems prepared to start almost from scratch if necessary. The fans' perspective. United fans have been through enough disappointment to last several lifetimes. They've watched their club decline steadily since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, with false dawn after false dawn. But there's something different about Maguire's warning. It's not a manager making promises or an executive talking about investment. It's a player who has been through the worst of it telling his teammates to step up or move on. Fans can see that Maguire has earned the right to speak. He was heavily criticized for years but never hid from the challenge. He kept working, kept improving, and eventually won over his harshest critics. If someone like Maguire is saying things need to change, fans are more likely to believe that change might actually happen. His transformation gives hope that other players can follow the same path. The test ahead. The real test of Maguire's warning will come in the weeks and months ahead. Will players heed his message and raise their standards? Will the club follow through on the threatened clear-out? Pre-season will be crucial. This is when Amorim can really work with his squad and see who has taken the message to heart. Players who show up in better shape, with better attitudes, and ready to fight for their place will have a chance. Those who think they can coast through another season are in for a shock. Maguire's warning wasn't just words, it was a promise of what's coming. The summer transfer window will show us how serious United are about change. If they really do sell 10 or more players and raise hundreds of millions, it will prove that this clear-out is real. Questions that need answers. As United prepare for their biggest summer shake-up in years, several questions remain unanswered. Can Amorim really build a successful team from scratch in one summer? History suggests it's incredibly difficult, but the alternative, continuing with players who have failed repeatedly, seems worse. Will the players who survive the clear-out respond to Maguire's challenge? Some might be motivated by his words, while others might resent being called out by a teammate. Can United really raise £335 million from player sales? The numbers look impressive on paper, but selling that many players in one window is never easy. Most importantly, will this finally be the change that United fans have been waiting for? They've heard promises before, but Maguire's direct approach feels different from the usual corporate speak. A leader's promise. Harry Maguire's transformation from scapegoat to leader has been one of the few bright spots in United's terrible season. His warning to teammates shows that he understands what it means to play for Manchester United. The club has been too comfortable with mediocrity for too long. Players have been able to underperform without real consequences. Maguire is saying those days are over. Whether his teammates listen or not, Maguire has drawn a line in the sand. He's shown that it's possible to turn things around through hard work and dedication. Now it's up to others to follow his lead. The summer of 2025 could be the most important in Manchester United's recent history. If Maguire's warning leads to real change, fans might finally have reason to believe again. If it's ignored, the club could face even darker days ahead. One thing is certain: Harry Maguire has proven that football careers can be turned around with the right attitude and effort. The question now is whether his Manchester United teammates are ready to do the same.